Hi, I'm RL from A-Cube Piano Studio, and in today's video, we'll be going through the Music Theory Practice Paper Grade 2 from ABRSM. So let's get started. Alright, the first section is on rhythm. And let's take a look at the first question here. Select the correct time signature for the bar. So let's take a look at this. Okay, so let's count it in terms, you can count it in terms of quaver beats or crotchet beats. Okay, but when I see all the notes being grouped together, okay, I would suspect either 2/4 or 3/8. Okay, so because 3/8 is counted in quaver beats and 2/4 is counted in crotchet beats, there are 2 crotchet beats in 2/4 time, which is also equals to 4 quaver beats. And 3/8 has 3 quaver beats per bar. I would count it in quaver beats. Alright, but it's totally fine to count it in terms of crotchet beat, which I will go through later on how to count it in terms of crotchet beat. So let's start off by counting it in terms of quaver beats. So this is the first quaver beat. 2 semi-quavers make a quaver. So this is the second quaver beat. Another 2 semi-quavers here, which makes the third quaver beat. So there are 3 quaver beats in a bar. So it is 3/8 time. Now, I mentioned you can also count it in terms of crotchet beats, right? So for grade 2, the time signatures that are tested, you can count it in terms of crotchet beats and quaver beats, no issues. Okay, you'll be able to get the answer. So let's count it in terms of crotchet beats. So you know, let's look at this. This is a quaver. Okay, then these are another 2 quavers. So, these are 2 semi-quavers, which makes a quaver beat. So this will make a crotchet beat. So this group of 3 notes makes a crotchet beat. Next, I have another 2 semi-quavers, which makes a quaver beat. So total, it is 1.5 crotchet beats. So because we do not have 1.5 crotchet beats per bar for time signature, so it is an indication that it is not 2/4 or 3/4, which are counted in terms of crotchet beat because the number at the bottom is 4. So it's a clear indication that it is in terms of quaver beats. Okay, and we know that 1 crotchet is equals to 2 quavers, so it is equals to 3 quaver beats per bar. So the answer is 3/8 time. Moving on to the second question. So let's count this. So if you look at this we'll count it in terms of crotchet beats. Alright. Okay, and there is an indication that maybe it is counted in terms of minimum beats, but it's okay. Let's first start off by looking at it in terms of crotchet beats. So this is equals to 3 crotchet beats. Okay, this is another crotchet beat, another crotchet beat, another crotchet beat, and then another 2 crotchet beats. So 3 crochets here plus another 3 crochets here, 6 crochets plus another 2 crochets here. So it's 8 crotchet beats per bar. But we do not have 8/4, right? So 8 crotchet beat is also the same as 4 minimum beats per bar, since 1 minimum is equals to 2 crochets. So yes, we do have 4 crotchet beats per bar option, okay, which is given by 4/2 time signature. So here we are, 4/2 is the answer. Next, let's take a look at this. Select the correct time signature for the bar. So let's count this in terms of crotchet beats. So this is 1 crotchet beat. This triplet is equals to a crotchet beat. Okay, so this is the second crotchet beat. This is the third crotchet beat. We have 3 crotchet beats in the bar, so the time signature is 3/4 time. Next, we are asked to drag and drop the missing bar the missing bar line to make the 2-bar melody. So this is 3/2 time. So 3/2 time, it is basically 6 crotchet beats or 3 minimum beats per bar. or 6 crochet beats per bar, depending on what you want to count in terms of. So let's count it in terms of crochet beats, all right? So this is a dotted minimum, so it's 3 crochet beats. This is 1 crochet, 2 crochet beats. So by now, we have add 3 plus 1 plus 2, which is 6. So the bar line should be here. Once you have put in the bar line, check that the rest of the bar or the second bar has the 6 crochet beads or 3 minimum beads in it. So let's take a look at this. So this is a minimum, which is equals to 2 crochet beads. 2 quavers make a crochet. So if you have 4 quavers, it makes 2 crochet beads. And then here, another crochet, another crochet, another 2 crochets. So total 6 crochets or 3 minimums in this second bar. So yes, the bar line is at the correct place. Moving on, 2 time. The number at the bottom tells us what each beat is. So when you have 2 at the bottom, it means that you're counting in minimum beats. The number at the top tells us how many beats there are in a bar. So I know that there are 2 beats per bar or in a bar, and each beat is a minimum beat. Okay, so in other words, 2 times means there are 2 minimum beats per bar. Okay, and 2 minimum beats is equals to 4 crochet beads. Okay, because each minimum equals to 2 crochets. So 2 minimums equals to 4 crochet beads. Okay. Okay, so now with that, let's count. I would use crochet beads to count. So this is the first crochet bead. Okay. And this is the second crochet bead. So there are some very common note combinations which you should know the time value for, like this dotted crochet plus the quiver is equals to a minimum. Oh, I should write it this way. Then a dotted quiver plus a semi-quiver, which is often written as this way, okay, is equals to a crochet. So one look at this, you should be familiar. This is equals to a crochet. Okay. So 1 crochet, 2 crochet. This is the third crochet. Then a quiver plus another quiver make up a crochet. So this is the 4th crochet bead. So in 2 times, there are 4 crochet beads per bar. So my bar line would be here. Okay, before I go on to the next question, let's check that there are also 4 crochet beads after this bar line in the next bar. So this is a crochet bead. Next, 4 semi-quavers make a crochet bead. So this is the second crochet bead. Then this is a minimum. So it is made up of 2 crochet beads. So this is 1 crochet. This is a second crochet. Then this is the another 2 more crochets. So total 4 crochets in the next bar. So therefore, it is correct because 2 times has 2 minimum beads per bar, which is equivalent to 4 crochet beads per bar. Next, let's look at this. So we have 3, 4 time. So we want to drag and drop the missing bar line to make 2 bar melody. So for 3, 4 time, what do we need? So there are 3 beads in a bar, and each bead is a crochet bead. So in other words, 3, 4 time means there are 3 crochet beads in a bar, right? 3 crochet beads in a bar. So let's start counting. So we take a look at this. So you have a quiver, which is equals to half of a crochet, plus a semi-quiver, plus another semi-quiver, right? So this is made up of a quiver and 2 semi-quivers. So if you join them together, it will make up half plus 1/4 plus 1/4. So this is equals to a crochet bead. So this is 1 crochet bead. This is a second crochet bead. And this, a triplet. So if you have 3 quavers with a triplet sign is equals to a crotchet, or the time value is equals to a crotchet. So this is the third crotchet beat. So in 3/4 time, there are 3 crotchet beats per bar. So I'll put my bar line here. Okay, next, after I've drawn this bar line, I need to make sure that there are also 3 crochet beats here. So remember I told you about the common note combinations. A dotted crochet plus a quaver is equals to a minim, and a minim is equals to 2 crochet. So this is equals to 2 crochet beats, and then this is our third crochet beat. So 2 plus 1 makes 3. So this bar line is at the correct place because before and after both of them have 3 crochet beats per bar. Next, let's take a look at this. We have 2/4 time. So for 2/4 time, okay, we have 2 crochet beats in a bar. Okay, so 4 semiquavers make a crochet beat. Okay, a dotted quaver plus a semiquaver will make a crochet beat as well. So we already have our second crochet beat. So we'll put this here. Next, let's look at this. If you do look at this, this and this will definitely have a time, the same time value, because these groups of notes, this group of note is made up of a quaver plus 2 semiquavers. This group of note is also made up of a quaver plus 2 semiquavers, right? So they will have the same time value. So let's just find out what is the time value of this group of notes, and it will be the same as the time value for this group of notes. So if you look at it, a quaver has a time value of half a crochet. Each semiquavers have the time value of a quarter of a crochet. So you add them up, it'll be something like this, right? Which is equals to 1 full crochet. So this is equals to a crochet beat. Okay, and this is another crochet beat. So total 2 crochet beats in this bar as well. So therefore our bar line is at the correct place, which is here. All right, next question, drag and drop. So now we have this time, and this, when you see this sign here, it is equals to 4/4 time. In other words, we are looking at 4 crochet beats because of the number 4 at the top per bar. So 4 beats per bar because of the number 4 at the top, and because we have the number 4 at the bottom, it tells us that each beat is a crochet beat. All right. Okay. Now with that, let's do this question here. We have 4/4 time, right? So just now I was mentioning that when you say this plus this, it is equals to a minim beat, right? Because this is equals to 1.5 crochet, or a crochet plus a quaver. Okay, this is a crochet plus a quaver. Okay, so this one is the 1.5 beats already. So what is the time value of this? So let's take a look at this. This is a triplet. Okay, a triplet sign above 3 semiquavers. And remember, a triplet, you can think of it as 3 becomes 2. So the time value of this group of notes is equivalent to 2 of the semiquavers without the triplet sign. And 2 semiquavers is equals to a quaver. So this is another quaver. So now we have a dotted crochet plus a quaver. So we know dotted crochet plus quaver equals to minim. Okay? So a minim is equals to 2 crochets. So we need 4/4 time, which is 4 crochets per bar. So we still need 2 more crochets. So this is the third crochet. And then 2 quavers make a crochet. So this is the 4th crochet. So my bar line should be here. Now, before I go on to the next question, let's check that there is also 4 crochet beats here. So now this is a crochet beat. 4 semiquavers. Each semiquaver is 1/4 of a crochet beat, right? So if you have 4 semiquavers, you make up 4 quarters. So it is another crochet beat. And finally, you have a minim, which is equals to 2 crochet beats. 1, 2, 3, 4. Total 4 crochet beats in the next bar. So therefore, it is correct. The bar line is here. Okay, because both this bar and this bar have 4 crochet beats in a bar. Okay, next, select the correct answer to the question. How many semiquavers are there in a dotted crotchet? So, let's look at a dotted crotchet. A dotted crotchet is equals to a crotchet plus a quaver. So, dotted means itself plus half of it, right? Okay, so it's this plus this. And each crotchet is equals to a quaver. And we still have this quaver here. So total, a dotted crotchet is equals to 1, 2, 3. 3 quavers, right? But are we asking for quavers? No, they're asking for semiquavers. So we know that each quaver is equals to 2 semiquavers, right? So 1 quaver is equals to 2 semiquavers. So 3 quavers is equals to 6 semiquavers. So the answer is 6. Right. Okay, let's move on. How many crotchets are there in a semi-brief? Okay, this one should be a very direct one. So 1 semi-brief is equals to 4 crotchets. So the answer is this one here. Select which of these bars is grouped correctly. So only one of them is grouped correctly, right? So for 4/4 time, how do we group it? So there are a few options. We can group the notes this way, beat by beat. And if there is a possibility, we can also group beats 1 and 2 together. 1, 2, 3, 4. We can also group 1 and 2 together, 3 and 4 together for 4/4 time. But we will never group beats 2 and 3 together. Okay, beats 2 and beats 3 can never be together. Okay, so let's take a look at this. So the first beat is a crotchet beat, so nothing to group. The second beat is made up of 2 quavers. So if I were to circle it out, this makes the second beat. Beat 2. Okay, and remember, beat 1 and 2 can be grouped together if there is needed, like they can be beamed. But a crotchet has no tail, so you cannot beam it together with the quavers. So no need to group beat 1 and 2 together because you can't. But beat 2 and beat 3 of 4/4 time cannot be grouped together. So let's take a look. This is the third beat, right? And they are grouped together. So this is R. This makes part of the third beat together with this 2 semiquavers. So now part of the third beat is grouped with the second beat. So this is also out. This is correct because this group of notes, these 3 notes, make up the third beat and they are grouped by themselves. They are not grouped 2, beat 2. So this is correct. The fourth beat is a crotchet, so there's no way to group a crotchet, okay, because there's no tail. So it is by itself. So this is the correct answer. Okay, show whether each group of rest is correct or incorrect. So if we look at this, let's take a look at this. So for your 3/4 time, we group the rest beat by beat, okay? Except if you have a full bar rest, then you just use the full bar rest. But if you take a look at X, Y, and Z, they're all not full bar rest. So we need to group the rest beat by beat. So nothing to do for bar 1, so let's just go on to bar 2. So this is the first crotchet beat, and this is a rest, a minimum rest, and it consists of beats 2 and 3. And this is incorrect because we group rest beat by beat. So I should write it as this, okay? Not this minimum rest. So X is incorrect. Okay, next, let's take a look at this. So this is the first crotchet beat. Where is my second crotchet beat? Well, if you look at these, there are 4 semiquavers here, and 4 semiquavers make up a crotchet beat. So, well, this rest here did not cross from the first to the second beat. It is everything here is part of the second beat. So this is correct. And then this is the third beat. All right. So this is correct. Okay, let's take a look at the last one. So the last one here, we have, this is a quaver and this is another quaver. So quaver plus quaver makes up the first crotchet beat of this 3/4 time. Okay, then next we have this crotchet rest, which is the second beat, and finally this note here. So if you look at this rest here is part of beat 1. This rest here is the entire of beat 2. So this rest did not cross from one beat to another. Neither did this rest. So this is correct. So Z is correct. Okay, now let's take a look at this bar of music. Identify which of the following shows the bar above correctly written in notes half the value. So remember, for time signature, how do you change? Okay, you don't need to do anything for this question because all three options give the same time signature. But if one of them is different or some of them are different, how do you check what is the correct time signature? Well, remember, if you want to halve the time value, half the value, okay, the number on top always remains the same. So 2 remains as 2. The number at the bottom, okay, to make it half, you will times 2. So 2 times 2 gives 4. So it becomes 2 4 times. Because look at it as the number at the bottom tells us what type of, what is each beat. So when it's 2, each beat is a minimum beat. When it's 4, each beat is a crotchet beat, and crotchet is half that of the minimum beat. So in other words, right, just remember that if you need to halve the value, just remember the top number of the time signature remains the same. The bottom number will times 2. Conversely, if you want to double the value, then again, maybe let's use 3 4 time as an example. So I want to double the value, right? So again, the top number remains the same. Okay, but the bottom number, what do? You will now divide by 2 so that each note, each beat is twice the value. So divide by 2 is 3 2. So if you want to double the value, then the time signature from 3 4 will become 3 2. Okay. Okay, but anyway, for this question here, it is not double the value, it is half the value. So we'll make use of this. So the time signature, the top number remains the same. So on top, it should be 2. The bottom, you need to multiply by 2. So 2 times 2 is 4. So all of them have the same time signature. So if you're taking your exam, ignore checking the time signature because they're all the same. So it must be 2 4 times. All right. So now let's move on. So I want to halve the value, right? So remember, if you want to halve the value, half the value. Okay, so if you have a crotchet, half of it is a quaver. Similarly, if you have a dotted crotchet, half the value is a dotted quaver. If you have one tail, which is your quaver, half the value will be a semi-quaver. Okay, if you have a dotted quaver, half the value will be a dotted semi-quavers. If you have a minimum, half the value will be a crotchet, and so on. Okay, so now let's take a look at this group of 4 notes first. So they are all quavers. So 4 quavers, and you halve the value, it becomes 4 semi-quavers. So this is out already. Okay, because it still remains the same. So this is out. So this is correct. Now I need 4 semi-quavers. Next, I have a crotchet. A crotchet will become a quaver. So there are 2 crotchets here. So these 2 crotchets will become 2 quavers. So this is wrong. Okay, because it remains the same value as these 2 crotchets. So this is the correct answer. So the third option is correct. Okay, now that we have completed the section on rhythm, let's move on to the section on pitch. Alright, select the name of this note. So whenever you're doing this question, right, the first thing you do is to check the key signature. So this key signature is F sharp and C sharp. So all F or C, you need to put a sharp unless otherwise there are some accidentals on the notes. So what is this note? So remember, this is treble clef. So this is F, A, C, E. So this is F. But because of this key signature, it is not F. It's F sharp. Okay, so the answer is F sharp. Okay, now let's take a look. Select the name of this note. So for this note here, we will use middle C as a, we will use this C as a reference. Okay, this is bass clef. Okay, and we know that there is no key signature, so don't need to worry about sharp and flats. Okay, and also there's no accidentals here. So this is the C, right? So I always ask my students to remember the C. So this is middle C on bass clef. This is the C that is 1 octave lower. And this is the C that is 2 octaves lower than middle C. So this note here is very close to this C. Okay? So C, then you're going down. So the next note is B. So this note here is B. Alright, let's take a look at this. Select the name of this note. So let's look, this is bass clef and there's a key signature. So there's B flat and E flat. Okay. So next, what is this note here? Well, there are many ways. So if you are using the reference notes, this is C, this is C. You can count from this C downwards to this. So it's C, B, A. This is A here. So there is no A flat in the key signature. So it is just A. Alternatively, you can count from this C all the way to here. Okay, so it is, let me erase this two first. This is C, then D, E, F, G, A. So this is A. Okay. Then you can also remember it as when you have bass clef, the space is all cows eat grass, right? So if this is G, then one note higher is A. Okay, so this note is A. Okay, next, select the name of this note. So this is C, right? Okay, or you can remember in the space for treble clef, in the space is F, A, C, E. So this is C. Select the name of this note. So what is this note here? So for treble clef, I usually ask my students to remember these C's as reference notes. So you notice this note is just one note lower than this note here, right? This is C, so this will be B, and because there's a flat here, is B flat. So this note here is B flat. Now let's take a look at this. What is this note here? So it's basically F sharp. Okay, so you can also use reference notes to determine what is this note. So you can remember all, in the space is all cows eat grass, right? So the first space is A. So this is A, then G, then F, and with a sharp. Okay, or you can also remember reference notes like this C here. So I usually ask my students to remember C as reference notes. These are all the C's. So this F is in between these two C's, so you can count from whichever way you like. So if you want to count from here, then you're going downward. So you will count C, B, A, G, F. And then there's a sharp. So this is F sharp. Okay, next, select the clef, the correct clef to make this note A. So this is a very common note, right? So we know that if it is bass clef, this is middle C. So therefore, it must be treble clef. Okay? And depending on what reference notes you use, so if this is treble clef here, I will use this C as a reference note. Then I'm going to go down C, then B, then finally this is A. So this is A note in treble clef. If this is bass clef, it is middle C. Next, select the clef to make this note B. Okay, so let's start off by using treble clef. So this is really close to middle C here, right? Okay, so this is C, then this is go down one step is B. So in treble clef, you'll get note B. Now, what if it is bass clef? So depending on what reference notes you use, I always ask my students to remember the C's as reference notes. So this is the C. So this is one note higher than the C, right? So C and then D. So this is D in bass clef. So therefore, bass clef should not be the answer because you end up having note D instead of note B. Next, drag and drop the note head into the marked area to rewrite this note in the new clef, keeping the pitch the same. Okay, so let's take a look at this. So if you have to look at this, this is C, then B. Okay, maybe I should write it here. Okay, so we have this note here, right? So let's use middle C as a reference, okay, because we know where middle C is on the bass clef, right? Okay, this here, right? Middle C is here. So we want to find what note this is. So let me highlight it. Okay, so now we have start off with C. We are going lower, right? So it's C, B, then A, then finally I reach this note here, which is G. So let's do. So I need to start first, second, third, fourth. C, then B, then A, then G. So this note here is the same pitch as this note here. Okay? Alright, next let's move on to this one here. So I need this note here, right? So let's use our middle C as a reference. Okay, so this is what I want, and this is my middle C, right? So middle C is lower than this note here. So let's go up. After C, the next note is D. Oops, I must join here. Okay. Then finally, I reach E. Okay, which is what I want. So it goes up from middle C. So now let's do it for treble clef. This is my middle C, right? So I need to go up first, second, third, the third one. Second, which is D, and finally, this is E. So this note here has the same pitch as this note here. Okay, so let me take this note head and drop it here. Okay, now let's move on. Drag and drop the note head into the marked area to rewrite this note in the new clef, keeping the pitch the same. Okay, so again, this is what we do. Use C as a reference. Okay, I want to reach here, right? So let's start off with middle C. And this note is lower than middle C, so I'm going down with it. So this is 1, 2, 3. Okay, C, B, A. Bass clef. Okay, starting from middle C, right? So I'm going downwards, right? Because it's lower. So B now, and then A. So this note here is of the same pitch as this note here. So let me drop the note head now. This question here, so I want to write this. So let me do again. So I'll use middle C as a reference for this questions, right, where they ask you to write the note of the same pitch from bass clef to treble clef or from treble clef to bass clef. You notice that middle C is always the reference notes used, because any other notes, right, if you use other C's, right, they will be too low or too high for the other clef. It will involve too many ledger lines. So it is always the notes that comes out for the questions, right? It's always very close to middle C, all right? So coming back to this is the this is the note that we are interested in, and let's use middle C as a reference. So this is middle C, and then one note higher is the note that we are interested in, which is the note D, okay? So let's do the same for treble clef, starting with middle C, right? So I need to go one note higher, which is here, which is my D. So this note has the same pitch as this note here. Both are D notes. Okay, let me drop the note head. Okay, next, the first note sounds lower than the second note. Okay, so to do this type of questions, right, something to take note of, if you have the same note, okay, same note, so let's just assume that I have A. Sharp will make it higher. Sorry. One semitone higher, I use ST to represent semitone higher, you will get A sharp. One semitone lower, you will get A flat. Okay, so for the same note, flat is the lowest, sharp is the highest. Okay, let's look at this. This is C, then this is D, then this is E, then this is F. So this is the F note that is very, that is a fourth above middle C, or above middle C lah. Okay, now this is F. Let's look at this. Let's use middle C as a reference. This is C, then D, then E, then F, right? This is F, and there's a sharp here. This is F sharp. So they are the same F, but this is natural, this is sharp. And we know that sharp is higher than natural. So this is the higher note. So the first note is lower than the second note. This is true. Okay. Next, this and this note here. So this is middle C. One note down is B, so this is B natural. This is C, one note down, it is B, and there's a flat, so B flat. So recall what I wrote just now. If you have B, no sharp, no flat. If you have B sharp, it is higher, right? One semitone higher. If you have B flat, it is one semitone lower. So this is lower. The B flat is lower than the B natural. Okay, so the second note sounds lower than the first note is not true. The second note is one semitone higher than this first note, which is B flat. Okay, now let's take a look at this. The second note sounds higher than the first note. So let's take a look at this. This is C, then this is D, so this is D natural. This is middle C for bass clef, and this one is D flat. So remember, flat is lower than no flat or natural, right? Flat is lower. Okay, remember your natural. This is one semitone lower, and sharp is one semitone higher. So therefore, D flat is lower. So therefore, this D natural is higher. So this is true. The second note sounds higher than the first note. Okay, now we have moved on to the next one, which is on keys and scales. Okay. So let's take a look at this. Select the correctly written key signature of A major. So A major has three sharps, right? F sharp, C sharp, and G sharp. And the F sharp is here, the C sharp is here, and then the G sharp is here. So remember the pattern for the key signature. It looks like a V shape. F sharp, C sharp, G sharp. So this is wrong, right? And it's not an inverted V, it's a normal V, so this is wrong. Next, you just check the sharps. This is F sharp, this is C sharp, this is G sharp, this is correct. This is not F, this is D sharp, A sharp, E sharp, so this is out. So this is the correct answer. Okay. In fact, right, before starting to do these questions here when you're at the keys and scales section, I always recommend students to write out the keys and the scales, the key signature chart. So like something like this, so that for the rest of your paper, you can just refer to it. Note, at the start of the exam, you are allowed to have 2 pieces of white paper, empty one. So when the exam starts, you can start writing or creating your key signature chart and check, make sure that it's correct. Then you can use it for the rest of the exam. Okay? Alright, so coming back to this, let's move on to this question now. Select the correctly written key signature of B flat major. So B flat major, what does it have? Well, B flat major has B flat and E flat, right? And you must start by writing B flat followed by E flat. And the pattern is this way. Okay? Okay, so for the flat for bass clef is an inverted V shape, right? So the first flat, the second flat, the third flat. But here you only have 2, so it just goes up. Okay? So therefore, you know that this pattern is out, this pattern is out. It's either this or this. So we check B flat first, followed by E flat. So this is the correct one. This one is wrong because this is D flat and G flat, not correct. Now, next, select 3 notes that needs an accidental to create the melody of D major. So let's look at this. D major has F sharp and C sharp. So anything that's F, anything that is C needs a sharp. So this is D, then this is C, so I need a sharp. D, A, okay. A, B, C, okay. C sharp again. Then this is C, then this one is D, right? This is D, D, F. F needs a sharp. Then D, E, D. So 2, 7, and 10 needs a sharp because they are either C or F. 2, 7, 10. Okay? Answer. Next, let's move on to this question here. Select the correct key of the melody. So for this one, write out what sharps you have and then refer to your key signature chart to determine the key. So you have D sharp and F sharp. Okay? So if you have a minor key, you'll sharpen the 7th note for a harmonic minor, right? Okay, so if you have F sharp, you have F sharp and you have D sharp. Then in between, you do not have any C sharp or G sharp, right? So in other words, it is a high indication that this is the sharpened 7th note. Okay? It wouldn't be F because F must be the first sharp. If your key signature has any sharp, it must first have F sharp. Okay? So now that I've done that, okay, so I know that, okay, the key signature must have F sharp. So if the first sharp is F, if you want to have C sharp in your key signature, before you can have C sharp, you must have F sharp. Okay, but clearly there's no C note here, but there's G note here, and the G doesn't have a sharp. Okay, so clearly I do not know about C because there's no C, but if I look at here, there's no G. There's no G sharp, right? So F sharp, C sharp, then G sharp, right? Before you can reach D sharp. Okay, so we know that this is part of the key signature. Remember the order. Just remember, if you have C sharp in your key signature, F sharp must be there. If you have G sharp in your key signature, you must have F sharp and C sharp first before you can have G sharp. So F is the first sharp for any key signature. So if you see F sharp and D sharp, F sharp must be part of the key signature. Then because you do not have G sharp, so before you can have D sharp in the key signature, you need to have G sharp, right? But there isn't any G sharp. The G here is not a sharp. So in other words, right, it's telling you that this is not part of the key signature. It's probably the sharpened 7th note. Okay, so I know that I have F sharp. Okay, and then I have D sharp as the sharpened 7th note. If D sharp is the sharpened 7th note, then E would be the tonic, right? Because after D is E. Okay, E. So that this is the 7th note. So is this going to be E minor? So let's take a look at our key signature chart. And we know that E minor has F sharp in the key signature. And also we know that the 7th note of E minor is D, and so we will sharpen it. So therefore, because there's both F sharp and D sharp here, so therefore this key here should be E minor. Okay, moving on to the next question. So now I have this, and if I look, this F, A, G, E, D, C, B flat, A, A. So I only have B flat. The E no flat, so that means only B flat, right? If you only have B flat, what key is it? It's either F major. If you have B flat as the key signature, you have both F major and D minor, right? So F major, you only have B flat. D minor, you can also sharpen the 7th note, and the 7th note of D minor is C, so your C will be sharpened. But take a look, the C here, no sharp. So this is going to be F major. Okay, next, let's take a look at this. Select true and false for the statement. So now this is the 5th degree of the scale of E flat major. So before we do that, just remember what are the key signature for E flat major. Well, the key signature will be B flat, E flat, and A flat. Okay, so any B, E, and A needs a flat. So now let's count. E is the 1st degree, F, G, A, B, right? 2nd, 3rd, 4th, 5th. So I reach 5th, and because of this key signature, this needs a flat, this needs a flat, this needs a flat, right? So my 5th degree is B flat. Is this note B flat? Yes. So this is true. Okay. Now let's move on to this question here. So select the correctly written scale of E flat major descending. So the first thing we do is to check, because it's E flat major, I need to start and end with E flat. So is this treble clef, this is E flat, this is E flat. This is treble clef, this is C flat. No, it's wrong. This is treble clef, this is E flat, but this is not E flat, so it is out. So without even looking at the rest, I know this will be the answer. Now let's do a check. So I know that in E flat major, the key signature consists of B flat, E flat, and A flat. So apart from E flat, I need B flat and A flat. So let's check. This is B flat, this is A flat. So therefore, number 1 is correct. Okay, next, select the 2 pair of notes in this scale that are each a semitone apart. So there are a few ways to do this question. Okay, first you can, so one of it is to memorize where the semitones are for major and harmonic minor scales. The other one is to draw out the piano and just determine where they are. So let's do the first method, which is to memorize. So this is a B flat major, right? Because B flat, it starts with B flat, and the only B flat key that is in the exam is B flat major. So this is B flat major. Okay, so if it is the B flat major, from all major keys, where are the 2 semitones? It's from the 3rd to the 4th note, 7th to the 8th note, right? So this is the 1st degree, this is the 2nd degree, this is the 3rd degree, this is the 4th degree. So it's from the 3rd to the 4th degree is where the semitone is. And then from the 7th to the tonic again is the next semitone. So if you memorize, it's from the 3rd to the 4th degree, the 7th to the tonic is where you have the semitone. Okay? So it's at 1 and 5. So this is one method, but not every one of us like to memorize the semitones in the harmonic minor and in the major, right? So another way is basically just mark it out on the piano and see whether they are a semitones or apart or not. If something is a semitone apart, what does it mean? It means that they are the nearest notes to each other. Doesn't matter whether it's a black or white notes. As long as they're nearest to each other, it is considered a semitone apart. Okay, so now let's draw out the piano. So let me mark up this note here. This is B flat. Sorry, let me use this here. This is B flat. This is B flat. And this one is A, right? They are right next. They are the closest note to each other. So this is a semitone apart. Now you have A followed by G. They are separated by this note here. So it's one semitone, two semitones. Two semitones apart. In other words, it is a tone apart. So it's not two. Now you have G and F. G and F. Again, one, two semitones apart or a tone apart. So three is not a semitone apart. Then F, then E flat. Again, one semitone, two semitones. Two semitones equals to a tone. So they are not a semitone apart. So 4 is not correct. E flat and D. E flat is here. D is here. They are the two nearest notes to each other and they are a semitone apart. So yes, E flat to D are a semitone apart. Then D to C, so one semitone, two semitones, which is equals to a tone apart. So no, 6 is not a semitone apart. Finally, C to B flat, 1, 2, two semitones apart. Okay, so not a two semitones is equals to a tone, so therefore 7th is not a semitone apart. So the answer is 1 and 5. So you can use both ways, depending on do you prefer to memorize or do you prefer to mark it down. You'll get the same answer. Okay, next, select the two incorrect notes in this scale, A harmonic minor ascending. So let's talk about A minor first. A minor, it has no, the key signature is nothing, right? No flat, no sharp. So key signature is empty. Okay, empty. Then you have the 7th note. So the 7th note in A, it says G, so you need to sharpen it. So you need G sharp for A minor harmonic. Okay, so where is G? It should be here, right? This is G. You need a sharp. For the rest of the notes, no sharp, no flat. So this one shouldn't be there. It should be just basically C, right? Without any sharp. So 3 is wrong, 7 is wrong. 3 is wrong, 7 is wrong. Okay, next, let's take a look at this. Select the omitted pitch mark X and Y to complete the scale of D major. So before we do that, remember for D major, what do we have? D major has F sharp and C sharp, right? So all the F, all the C, we need a sharp. Now, let's start from this. This is D. So it's descending. So D, C, but because of the key signature, I need C sharp. D, C sharp, then B, A, G, F sharp. Okay, because of the key signature, then E, D. So X should be C sharp and Y should be E. Okay, and with that, we have completed the section on keys and scales. Let's move on to intervals. Okay, select the correct number for this interval. So let's do it. So this is B flat, then C, then D, then E flat. So it's 1, 2, 3, 4. So it's a fourth. Now let's take a look. Select the correct number for this interval. So it's E flat, then F, G, A, B, C, D. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So it's the 7th. Okay, next correct interval for this. So we start from A, then we go up is B, C, D, then E. This is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It's the 5th. Next, from here to here, G flat, E flat to B flat. E, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It's a 5th. Okay, next from D to C sharp. So this is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, then 6, then 7. Okay, so it's the 7th. Okay, next, this is just adjacent notes. This is first, this is second. So this is the next note. So it's a second apart. Again, this is a second apart, F, then G. Okay, select the correct interval for this. So we have here B flat, then C, then D, then E, then F, then G, then A, then we reach B flat here, right, which is what we want here. So it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So it's an 8th apart, B flat to B flat. So they are an octave apart or an 8th apart. Okay, now we start off with this 1, then 2, A, then B, then C. So they are a third apart. Okay, remember if something is stacked on top of another, they are stacked on top of another. So I call the stack on top pattern is always a third apart. Okay, then D to B. So this is 1. Then E, F, G, A. Let me draw this nicely. So this 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 is the 6th. Okay, so now that we have completed the section on intervals, let's move on to the next section, which is on tonic triads. Okay, so this is the tonic triad of D minor. So before we look at it, let's check the lowest note is D. Yes, it's correct. Then you just need to stack on top. After you have checked the lowest note is D and you have stacked on top, next you need to check whether you need sharp or flat. So for D minor, okay, you have B flat as the key signature. And because the tonic triad is just the first, third, and the fifth note, you'll never go to the 7th note. So don't need to think about the sharpened 7th note. So the tonic triad for D minor is D, F, A, no sharp or no flat, because you only have B flat. There's no B flat here. So this is D, F, A. So you don't need any sharp, don't need any flat. So this is true. Next, this is the tonic triad of F major. So first thing you need to do is to check whether this is F. And remember, for the bass clef, it's all cows eat grass. This is A, not F. So straight away, it is false already because the lowest note must be F. Drag and drop one of the 3 note hits to complete this triad with the tonic as the lowest. So if you have this two, the tonic triad, right, is always the stack on top pattern. Stack on top of each other. If something this is in the space, all the notes, the 3 notes in the tonic triad will also be in the space. So based on this, we know that it must be here already. So the only thing you need to determine, you know that it's here in between these 2 other notes. So the only thing you need to determine is, do you need flat or do you need sharp? Okay, so this is B flat major. And B flat major, you have B flat and E flat in your key signature, right? And the tonic triad is B flat, D, F. D and F don't need any flat or sharp because your key signature is just B flat and E flat, no D and F. So therefore, you'll just put this D note here without any sharp or flat. Okay. So let me take this, the one without sharp and flat, and put it here. Done. Now I need to form A major. Okay, so A major must start with A, right? This is C sharp, this is E. So I need to put A here. Okay, A major, it must start with A. So definitely I'm short of A, so I just put in the A. And the tonic triad of A major is A, C sharp, and E. Why C sharp? Because A major has F sharp, C sharp, G sharp in the key signature. So your C needs a sharp. So it's A, C sharp, and E. Next, I want to drag and drop, okay, to complete this triad with the tonic as the lowest. And remember, I told you the stack on top pattern, right? So the note that is missing, it's this one, the middle one. Okay, it must be stacked here. Okay, next, before I choose one of the note here, I need to determine whether I need sharp or flat or nothing. So E minor, what do we have in the key signature? F sharp, right? Just F sharp. Okay, don't need to think about the 7th note for tonic triad because the 7th note will not go to a tonic triad because you only have the 1st and the 3rd and the 5th notes for the tonic triad. So now let's come back to here. E minor, you have E, G, B. So don't need any sharp or flat here. Okay, because all this G and B, G doesn't have any sharp. Okay, so G, take the note here without any sharp or flat. Put it here. Okay, let me align it nicely. Okay, done. So this is the answer, G here. Okay, next, select the correct key for this tonic triad. So first thing you do first for this type of questions, just look at the lowest note. What's the lowest note here? The lowest note, this is treble clef, this is the note G, right? So this is the only option with G. Okay, so therefore the answer is G major. And it's right because G major is G, B, D for tonic triad. Next, select the correct key for this tonic triad. So let's take a look at this. The lowest note here is D here. So it's either, it must have something D. This F and G is out. So it's either D minor or D major. So which one is it? So we'll go back to the key signature. For D major, you have F sharp and C sharp. So for your tonic triad, it'll be D, F sharp, A. For D minor, you only have B flat in the key signature. So therefore your tonic triad is D, F, A. So because there is a sharp here for F, so therefore the correct key for this tonic triad is D major. Alright, next, select the key for this tonic triad. So if you look at this, we start off by looking at the lowest note. So this is bass clef, right? So this note here is E flat. Okay? So it is E flat, right? So it must be something E flat. So this is out, this is out. This is E flat, correct? This is E, E is not E flat, so wrong. So it is E flat major. So E flat major tonic triad consists of E flat, G, B flat, which is what we have here. So the answer is the E flat major tonic triad. Next, select the correct key for this tonic triad. So we start off by looking at the lowest note. The lowest note is F. Okay, for bass clef, this is F. So must be F here. So no, this is correct. This is no, this is no. So you only have one option with F, so it's F major. Okay, and the tonic triad for F major is F, A, C, which is what we have here. Next, select the correct note for correct key for this tonic triad. So what is this note here? This is C, right? Middle C, then this is B, this is A. So this note here is A. Okay, so we need A whatever. It must be A something. So the key must be A something. So not C, not G, not E. You only have A minor, so the answer is A minor. Okay, and in A minor, the tonic triad is A, C, E, which is exactly what we have here. Okay, now next we have terms and signs. So for terms and signs, it's basically just memorize. Okay, probably for most of the terms and signs, if you have played the piano very often or you play the music often, okay, you will be very familiar with quite a few of them already. Okay, so let's do this together. Okay, right. So the first one, molto means very much. Okay, the next one, this one simply means slightly separated. So without the slur sign, it will be staccato, right? Detached. Okay, but now because there's a slur with this dot, it is slightly separated. You play with a bit of staccato. Okay, dalsegno means repeat from the sign, and the sign is this sign here. Dolce means sweet. Okay, then this one, allegretto means fairly quick. Allegro is quick, so allegretto is not as quick as allegro, so it's fairly quick. Okay, next, let's move on to music in context. Okay, so for this, they say all the notes in bar 1 to 4 of this melody can be found in E minor. So let's look at E minor. Okay, so E minor, what key signature does it have? It has F sharp for the key signature. Then what is the 7th note? D sharp, right? 7th note. So we'll have F sharp and D sharp. So this key signature already have F sharp already. So they don't need to put a sharp here. Okay, But if you want any sharp, the only sharp that you can have is D sharp. So I don't see anything, I only see these two notes with sharp. So let me check whether they are D sharp. So yes, this note is D and it has a sharp. This note is D also and is D sharp. So yes, they all form part from bars 1 to 4. All the notes in bars 1 to 4 of this melody can be found in E minor. This is true. Okay, next, select how many times the 7th degree of the scale appears. So what is the 7th degree? The 7th degree, this is E minor, right? So the previous question already tell you this is E minor. So the 7th degree is D sharp. Okay? It's D, then you need to sharpen the 7th note because it's a minor key, so it's D sharp. So let's take a look. So I see a D sharp here once. No D, no D. Another D sharp here, second time. D here, D sharp here. Then also check, because once you have a sharp, the rest of the notes with the same pitch, right? Even if you want D sharp, you don't need to put in, right? So let me check. Okay, there isn't any other D sharps here. Next here, this is D, and this note here is also D sharp, because once I put a D sharp here, because they are in the same bar, this will also be played as D sharp. Okay, no more D's till the end. So the D appeared 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 times. Okay, next, let's look at what is the highest note for the melody. Okay, the highest note in the melody, so we need to look for the highest, all right? So this looks like the highest note. Let's check, is there any note that is higher than this note here, which is E? Okay, you need to go up. So this one already have 2 ledger lines. So you need to check notes with either 2 ledger lines or more. This is only 1 ledger line, so you can forget about it. So it seems that E is the highest note. And if you check this key signature, it's F sharp. So this E is just E. Okay. Okay, next. The softest note in the melody is, so you have P, then gradually getting louder, then gradually getting quieter, then go back to P, which is quiet, going louder, then getting quieter, then PP. PP is very quiet, and you only have PP at this note here, and this note here is E, and it's in bar 8. Okay, next, the notes in bar 2 have the same rhythm as the notes in. So let's look at this. It's all quavers, right? 8 quavers in the bar. And where do we see 8 quavers in the bar again? Same rhythm, that means you have the same note value throughout, right? So this also 8 quavers, right? So this is bar 5. So the answer is bar 5. All right, we have come to the end of this paper here. If you are interested in more tips and tricks on how to answer the ABRSM Music Theory exam, do check out our course, link in description below.